Hello, I'm Kimberly, and welcome to the weekend edition of the Native News Update. It's Friday, October 25th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at IndianCountryTV.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. On October 24th, the mother of a murdered teenager spoke at the Lac du Flambeau statewide shelter Rape on the Reservation presentation. Martina One Star's daughter, MarQuita Walking Eagle, was murdered in 2009 on a reservation in St. Francis, South Dakota. She was killed by her friend Brian Boneshirt. Police say Boneshirt beat Walking Eagle, bound her hands behind her back, and choked her to death. That's a story Lac du Flambeau leaders hoped would help educate the community on violence and sexual assault in their area. According to the Wisconsin Department of Justice, women in Lac du Flambeau had the highest risk in Wisconsin of being raped in 2012. During the evening's presentation, the tribe also announced the formation of their teen mentor advocacy program called MarQuita's Legacy, which they hope to take nationwide. To many, the scenic isolation of this island at the mouth of Tampa Bay evokes thoughts of paradise. To members of the Seminole Tribe, Egmont Key has been nothing but a place of oppression and death. During the Third Seminole War of the mid-1800s, members of the tribe were imprisoned by U.S. soldiers, brought there by boat, and herded into pens. Those who survived the harsh conditions were moved to reservations. Those who died were tossed into holes in the ground without markings. Their remains are still scattered across the island today. Now, for the first time since the last of those prisoners sailed away from Egmont Key, a large group of Seminoles will return, as many as 75, to see that their ancestors are never forgotten. The group will dock at Egmont Key on November 3rd for the history tour of the island, joining an annual event sponsored by Egmont Key Alliance, then reboard for a journey tracing a portion of the path their ancestors took to banishment on reservations. In the days of the internment camp, the island spanned more than 580 acres. 5 years ago, it was measured at about 250 acres. Today, it is closer to 200. When the Seminole leaders learned of the dire circumstances of the eroding island, they began lobbying for preservation. The Quapaw Tribe is one of 4 tribes in Oklahoma to receive General Assistance Grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to monitor air quality for toxic pollution. The Quapaw Tribe received $270,234 to continue the monitoring of air on tribal lands in northeast Oklahoma, including the Tar Creek Superfund site. An environmental spokeswoman for the tribe said the monitoring by the tribe has continued for 13 consecutive years. The grant, she said, will continue the program. The other tribes receiving grants were the Cherokee Nation, the Delaware Nation, and the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Drunktown's Finest is a movie about finding hope in the bleakest of circumstances. Director Sidney Freeland grew up in the real Drunktown, Gallup, New Mexico, or at least that's what ABC's 2020, the cable news magazine that gave her hometown that dreadful moniker in 1990, would have her believe. Instead of resigning herself to a life of addiction, Sidney found a source of hope in her Navajo culture. She wrote Drunktown's Finest to share that hope with the world and to show that the wisdom of Navajo tradition can be a powerful force for good in our modern society. An important tenet of this Navajo wisdom is the respect for the third gender. Since long before the LGBT movement, the Navajo have had a sensitivity for people born with gender identities across the entire spectrum of possibility. One of the main characters in Drunktown's Finest, Felixia, is a transgender Navajo woman who dreams of modeling in the big city. Playing the role of Felixia is real-life transgender Navajo woman Carmen Moore, who says that just about everything that Felixia experiences in the film is something that she's gone through in her life. You can learn more about the Drunktown's Finest by going to Kickstarter.com and searching for the film. Native American health and wellness is the focus of a national traveling exhibit that debuted October 24th at Kingdeska-Kekana Community College on the Spirit Lake Nation. Native Voices honors the Native American tradition of oral history by showcasing 150 interviews discussing how Native health and culture intertwine with contemporary medicine. Spirit Lake members will share their stories for the video component of the traveling exhibit, which will stop in Alaska, Hawaii, and Oklahoma before being offered to other sites nationwide. In every city where the exhibit is featured, residents will be able to make new videos and have that added to the existing show. And that's another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me and have a grand day.